Hey there YouTube, this is Yukitsu speaking. Welcome to the making of. This is going to be my first video in a small series I'll be doing where I make videos about the Let's Plays I'm doing, explain the process behind making them, and what I'm making them for. This one is Empire Total War. It's for my BBC Radio 4 Presents Empire Total War Let's Play over on the Something Awful forums. This one's been going on for a little while now, and I'm getting it to about to the halfway point. And I figured I'd just start throwing in some video content, but I didn't want to just put up battles for the sake of putting up battles. So I'm going to be talking about what I'm doing, sort of the process I go behind for every episode. Since this is the very first one, I'll just start with the very basics. The easiest part for this game is just actually playing it. It's the first step. I just play the game for about 2 in-game years at a time. Record a lot of, take a lot of snapshots, take a lot of pictures, and then I try and write the story around what's going on in that game. The hard part about this is I always have to try and guess what's going to happen many turns ahead of when it actually happens. For example, I'm not actually sure how long this war would have gone if I was trying to just blitz it at the end, although all the reasons I'm saying that I haven't invaded Britain so far aren't actually just made up excuses. I actually couldn't invade Britain for a very long time for a lot of very legitimate reasons. Right now, actually, the Italian states have all declared war on me, so I have to redirect my armies from India over to Italy. So it'll probably actually take as long as I thought it was going to. I've played this game a lot before. I'm playing this on hard/hard difficulty, which means I've got a lot of disadvantages compared to if I were playing it on other difficulties, and the AI has some advantages, but it's not very hard. I can beat this game on very hard, but if you look at what I'm doing here, I've turned off a lot of the user interface features that make this game playable. For example, in this naval battle you'll see that I don't have the hover over flags that tell me which ship belongs to who. I actually have to know whose ship belongs to who by playing and by mousing over or by memorizing where each ship is or what class every ship is. So it's a lot harder, but if I were playing this on very hard, I wouldn't be able to do that, so I had to switch it to hard. Also, I've never actually beaten the game on very hard as the Dutch before. I've done it as the English, I've done it as the Prussians, but I can't do it as the Dutch, so that would have been an interesting thing to try. Anyway, after I get a few hours usually of gameplay in, or a few turns at least, a few years, I start writing the general outline of the story behind it, which is the main focus of my Let's Play. Usually my updates start off with about a 2,600 word document, so it's not too long. But my actual posts, since I add annotations to all of my pictures, usually it ends up being about 3,500 words, so it's usually a significant chunk of writing. I don't actually have an editor, so people have been commenting that I make a ton of spelling errors or miss years or anything like that. I do apologize for that to anyone who's actually reading my Let's Play. That is just mostly because I don't have an editor. If I get one, then you'll see a marked improvement in the writing quality, I assure you, but as it is, I'm not going to worry too much about it since it's not a career, it's a hobby. And I'm not a writer. I'm also, as you can tell, not British, and I'm not a historian, which might surprise some of you. I'm not American, I actually am from the Dominion. I'm from Canada, or the former Dominion. But I really do like the BBC. That's one of those channels that I get a lot of information from, and I love watching their documentaries. If you couldn't tell from the way I write and what I post about. Anyway, after I get the drafting done in Word, usually what I need to do at that point is start filling in details in that rough draft. And for that, I mostly have to go to Wikipedia, because I'm mostly going to be looking through historical facts. A lot of what I'm saying in the thread and in the post is actually grounded in reality, even though obviously nothing at this point is historically accurate, per se. A lot of what I'm saying is accurate to some degree. For example, there really was an Admiral John Leake, who was a significant figure at Beachy Head along with the Dutch, for example, and the Spartiate actually was a French ship that had been captured and so on and so forth. So all those historical, pseudo-historical facts I try and weave into the story that I'm making so that it looks more authentic, I think. And that's something I especially like to do when I'm doing the screen captures, adding historical facts that are actually real to the context of the posts. So that usually takes another few hours. The actual writing usually only takes me about an hour and a half because I'm not doing it too specifically or carefully. I'm just sort of trying to do this for fun, so I don't want to do any of that. But even though I'm not actually a history major, I do love researching history and studying history, so I get a lot of my facts as right as I possibly can with the resources I have and the time I have. So I love researching history, so I spend a lot of time doing that, usually about 3 or 4 hours, just looking up historical documents or going through wikis or anything I think that could help. It's a great experience, I think, and it's been a lot of fun so far. I know that this sort of Let's Play isn't for everybody, but it may be if you just like watching ships explode, as the one in the background did here. You'll stick around for the videos. Hopefully that'll be interesting to you. So anyhow, after I've sort of gotten all of my historical notes added in, I start looking for screenshots. And I'll look for more historical notes while I'm looking for screenshots, but I use both in-game assets and I use Google image search to find my pictures. Usually I take a chunk of the paragraph, or I take an entire paragraph, or I take a cluster of paragraphs and I just look at the content there and figure out if there's anything I'm particularly trying to say there. And I look for any picture that I think would fit with the context of what I'm trying to say, and I always try and start with in-game pictures. But if I can't find an in-game picture that's describing sort of what's going on there in my narrative, I'll use just a random picture from the internet. Usually it's one that I think fits the situation. For example, the port in Le Havre I could have used in-game assets for actually, but it wouldn't actually be a unique port, so basically it would just be the little port icon. So instead I used a actual painting of the port at Le Havre. I think that makes it a little bit more real as opposed to if I did it the other way of just only using in-game assets. And for what I'm trying to go with here, it makes a big difference to me whether it feels sort of like it's an authentic documentary or not. So that was really important for me. So anyway, after I've sort of picked out the majority of the screenshots that I'm going to be using, either in-game or from Google, I'll compile them all into a gigantic folder, numbered whatever, for the specific post. Once I've got that organized in order of where they're going to appear, I try and arrange them to the correct size. People have noticed I've accidentally broken the table a couple times. I try and edit that as quickly as possible. But I edit them down to the same size, which is about 750 across usually. That's what I try and aim for, or if it's pretty close, I just leave it as is. But once I've gotten all those arranged, I move them all into Imgur in order, and then just put them one by one into the text, the URL image quotes. Then I add the screen caps below as I'm going usually. So the writing quality for those is probably even worse than it is for the standard writing that I do, but because that doesn't actually have an editing process. At least with the Word document, I read through it, but the screen caps that you see in my posts are literally all just slashed in there from the test post site, so they're not exactly high quality text there. It's as good as I can get it really without making this into a new job, which I don't want to do, but anyway, it's about time for me to wrap this up. I think that's most of the baseline processes out of the way. I'll be updating this pretty sporadically as I do my regular updates to the Let's Play on Something Awful. I'll see you all later, and I hope you enjoy my Let's Play of Something Awful Empire Total War. See you all later.